Aberdeen, a granite city, the River Dee cutting cold through its heart. It is the 7th of January, 2025. The cameras are watching. They always are. Two women step onto Victoria Bridge. Sisters, Eliza Huszti, Henrietta Huszti. Triplets by birth, though one remains elsewhere. Bound together by more than blood. The camera records them. Crossing, moving, existing, and then nothing. That still frame, two sisters in motion, is the last known image of them alive. Minutes later, a phone buzzes. Henrietta's. A message. Short. Final. We will not return. Not sent to family. Not sent to friends. But to their landlady. And then, the line goes dead. The signal cuts. The digital trace ends. Their flat remains untouched. Clothes still folded. Jackets hung. Dishes waiting in the sink. The rhythm of ordinary life paused mid-breath. It is not disappearance. It is interruption, as if the reel of their lives were suddenly torn in half. So we begin with a question. Not what happened. That comes later. But why? What takes two sisters in the middle of winter across a bridge at night to vanish into the dark? Is it despair? Is it design? Is it something unseen, someone waiting, a hand that guided them towards silence? We don't yet know. And that uncertainty is the shadow that drives everything that follows. Eliza, Henrietta, both 32 years old, both Hungarian, both recent arrivals to Aberdeen, searching, like so many of us, for stability. They shared a flat, shared habits, shared the quiet bond of being outsiders in a city not yet home. Neighbors recall them as quiet, friendly, private. But now, their names become public record, not because of who they were, but because of the absence they leave behind. The CCTV is studied again, and something emerges. It wasn't their first time on that bridge. The night before, January 6th, Eliza and Henrietta were there. Not walking, not crossing, standing. For 5 minutes, they looked down into the River Dee. Then they left, and the next night, they returned. What do we make of that? Was it rehearsal? Contemplation? Coincidence? How do you measure the weight of two pairs of eyes staring into water the night before they vanish into it? This is where our story begins, not with answers, but with fracture. A city at night, a message that feels like a riddle, a river that swallows sound and light, and two sisters who step into darkness, never to return. The investigation begins, but the real journey is into the human psyche, into grief, denial, and the hunger for truth in a world that may offer none. By dawn on January 8th, the alarm is raised. Two sisters are missing. Not runaway teenagers. Not absent for a few hours. Two grown women, 32 years old, vanished overnight. Police Scotland receives the call. Officers are dispatched. The search begins. But already, time is slipping away. Detectives turn to the cameras. Aberdeen is a city woven with surveillance. Every shop front, every intersection, every bus is another eye. Frame by frame, they track the sisters. The last image, Victoria Bridge, 9:14 p.m. Dark coats, shoulder to shoulder, and then the edge of the frame swallows them whole. Beyond the bridge, no trace. A simple truth emerges. The city watched them until it didn't. Then, the message. The text Henrietta sent. We will not return. Investigators seize on it. Is it a farewell? A warning? A misdirection? Her phone stops transmitting at 9:20 p.m., 6 minutes after the last sighting. Eliza's phone dies even earlier. Two lifelines cut. Deliberate or forced? In missing persons cases, the first 24 hours are crucial. But here, the trail already feels cold. Family back in Hungary waits for updates. Friends in Aberdeen knock on a door that no longer opens. The sisters' flat is searched. Unmade beds. Groceries still fresh. Passports untouched. Not the chaos of flight. Not the planning of escape. But a life suddenly interrupted. And in that absence, people begin to fill the silence with their own fears. Speculation spreads. Suicide. Accident. Abduction. The river becomes the focus. Divers enter the Dee, murky and fast with winter current. Day after day, nothing. If the sisters jumped, Where are the bodies? If they fell, why is there no trace? And if someone met them on that bridge, where did they go? Theories clash. Every possibility feels plausible. Every explanation unsatisfying. Here is the true cruelty of the search. It is not just about finding. It is about enduring the space in between. Every hour without discovery becomes its own torment. Every unanswered call echoes louder. For the investigators, it is procedure. For the family, it is agony. For the city, it is unease. Two women stepped onto a bridge. The world keeps asking, did they step off, or were they taken beyond? The search does not just hunt for bodies. It hunts for certainty. And certainty remains missing. When evidence stalls, theories bloom. Silence is a fertile soil for speculation. And the disappearance of Eliza and Henrietta Huszti becomes not just an investigation, but a canvas onto which everyone paints their fears. The first, most obvious explanation. The River Dee. That January night, it ran dark and swollen. A slip, a leap, a choice. Divers comb the waters. They find driftwood, rubbish, twisted bicycles thrown in years ago. But not the sisters. Days pass, then weeks. No bodies, no belongings. Water holds secrets, but even rivers eventually give them back. Then comes the idea of a pact. Two sisters, two lives too tightly bound. Henrietta's final message reads like a line from a joint diary. We will not return. The words strike investigators as deliberate, plural, inclusive. Not I, not she, we. But if this was an act of will, why leave passports, money, everything that might tell a story? Why stage a vanishing so carefully incomplete? And then, the darker whispers, that someone else was waiting, not in the cameras, not in the records, but in the blind spots. Aberdeen has shadows, alleys, riverside paths, blind corners where the city's gaze doesn't reach. Could the sisters have met someone there? A friend? A stranger? A predator? The unanswered question presses hardest. If they were taken, where did they go? Some argue they chose disappearance. Not death, not abduction, but erasure. To walk out of one life and into another is not impossible. It has been done, but it requires planning. False identities, preparation, secrecy. And the Huszti sisters left none of that behind. Only that final message, like a door closed without explanation. Each theory is not just about facts. It is about projection. The river appeals to those who believe in tragedy. The pact to those who fear despair. The third presence to those who fear violence. And self-erasure to those who secretly long to escape themselves. What we choose to believe about their fate reveals more about us than about them. But here's the truth. Theories are a comfort. They give shape to chaos. They let us pretend we understand. Yet in January 2025, Aberdeen understood nothing. Two sisters were gone, and in their absence, the city's own fears stared back at it from the dark waters of the Dee. Theories are shadows, and shadows are not truth. Time. In missing persons cases, it is both enemy and illusion. The longer the sisters remain absent, the less chance they will be found alive. And yet, the hours stretch, elastic, unbearable. For the family, for the police, for the city, the silence grows louder. Back in Hungary, their mother clings to the phone. Every call from Scotland becomes a lifeline. Every silence between calls a wound. Relatives argue. Some insist they're alive. They must be. Others whisper the darker possibility. Grief begins even without proof. Because what do you grieve when there's no body? When the last image you have of your daughters is two darkcoats walking across a bridge into the night. Ambiguity is a cruelty deeper than certainty. For Police Scotland, the case becomes a maze. CCTV footage is exhausted. Phone records end abruptly. No witnesses step forward. Detectives retrace the sisters' movements for days before the disappearance. Shops, cafes, bus routes. Nothing unusual. No arguments. No signs of fear. The file thickens with absence. Reports written in the language of nothing found. And behind closed doors, officers admit they have no working theory strong enough to carry the weight of evidence. Meanwhile, Aberdeen murmurs. Two women vanish, and the city begins to look at itself differently. Parents tell children not to walk alone. Headlines speculate, hungry for answers. Rumors flare, abduction rings, foreign plots, river suicides. In the pubs, in the buses, in whispered conversations on Union Street. Everyone has an explanation, but none can be proven. Fear does not require truth, only imagination. And here, the breaking begins. The family breaks under waiting. The police break under pressure. The city breaks under fear. And perhaps, in some way we cannot yet understand, the sisters themselves broke before any of us knew it. Because disappearances are never just physical. They are psychological implosions. The visible world erases two figures, but the invisible damage spreads like cracks in glass. The longer the silence lasts, the more unbearable the questions become. Not where are they, but why them? And if it could happen to Eliza and Henrietta Huszti, could happen to anyone? In absence, we find reflection, and reflection is not always merciful. Every mystery carries within it a moment of rupture. When something is found, when something changes, when the story reorients itself, not toward closure, but toward deeper uncertainty. For Eliza and Henrietta Huszti, that moment arrives not with bodies, but with a detail overlooked. Investigators return to the tapes. Hours of silent footage, rewound, replayed. And then, one small sequence from January 6th, the night before the disappearance. There they are, Eliza, Henrietta, standing on Victoria Bridge, silent, still, staring into the dark water for nearly 5 minutes. Not crossing, not hurrying, just watching. It looks like contemplation. It looks like rehearsal. It looks like a prelude. And then the message, we will not return. What once felt like riddle, now reads like farewell, plural, collective, we. But what does that mean? Suicide pact? Shared despair? Or something else? A code? A private language we cannot translate? Suddenly, the message transforms from clue to confession. Not a crime, but of intent. Here the paradigm shifts. We no longer ask, who did this to them? We ask, did they do this to themselves? The investigation bends. Theories fracture. Families resist. Because suicide leaves not only grief, but blame. Who missed the signs? Who should have stopped them? And most unbearably, was this their choice? But here is the cruelty. No bodies, no witnesses, no physical trace. Only footage of two women staring into water. And a message that echoes like scripture. We will not return. Evidence without conclusion. Certainty without proof. We are left in the liminal space, where everything feels true, and nothing can be proven. This is the penultimate revelation. The sisters may not have been taken. They may not have fled. They may have chosen. But choice is not evidence. And absence is not closure. What do we do when the only witnesses to the truth are the ones who are gone? 3 hours into their disappearance. 3 months into the investigation. 3 perspectives remain, and none carries certainty. 2 women vanished in Aberdeen. And what we are left with is not an answer, but a mirror. For the police, this case will live in a file marked unsolved. Evidence cataloged. Timelines logged. Reports written. Every line measured. Every lead followed. But the core remains hollow. Detectives are trained to work in facts. Yet here, they confront the unbearable. That sometimes, facts are not enough. For Eliza and Henrietta, their voices are gone. We know them only through what remains. A final text. A flicker of CCTV. A silence that stretches. We cannot speak for them. We cannot claim to know their hearts. But in choosing to humanize them, to remember them not as symbols of mystery, but as women, sisters, daughters, migrants, dreamers, we resist the erasure that disappearance tries to impose. And then there is us, the witnesses, the readers, the watchers. Why do such stories grip us? Because they expose the fragility of certainty. They force us to admit, safety is not guaranteed. Answers are not promised. And sometimes the people we love can vanish between one heartbeat and the next. The Huszti sisters' story is not just theirs. It is ours, because it leaves us with a question no system can answer. What we do with the unknown. Here is the truth we must carry. Some stories do not end. They remain suspended, not because they lack answers, but because they reveal something deeper. That human life is fragile. That love is bound to loss. That we search for patterns where there may be none. And that sometimes the greatest weight is not in what we know, but in what we never will. Eliza Huszti, Henrietta Huszti, two sisters, two shadows across a bridge. A message we will not return. And they never did. But we remain, haunted not by their absence, but by the questions they left behind.